Well, if you're traveling in the North Country Fair, where the winds hit heavy on the borderline, remember me to one who lives there. She once was a true love of mine.
This is 2020. It's the year of unpredictability.
Anything could happen.
Who knows what might happen?
I mean, that's the scary part of all this.
It is.
We just don't know what's coming next.
Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. This is a special video for all of you boaters and sailors who have been thinking, what is going on this year? This 2020 has been the oddest, strangest year. You may feel stymied. You may feel like things aren't working out. There are a lot of big things happening on the earth this year. Big things and new things. Some big things that have happened before, but never at this level or intensity. And brand new things that haven't happened ever. So sit back and take a look and get a larger perspective to see. There's more going on this year than may be apparent to the eye. Ultimately, my hope is to encourage you to see the big picture and to press on.
The Northern California blazes began with thousands of lightning strikes spawned by unusual dry thunderstorms hitting on one of the hottest nights of the year.
A rare sight across the skies of the Bay Area.
Nearly 11,000 lightning strikes were reported in a span of just 72 hours.
Well, we've seen a lot of wild weather this weekend, but take a look at this video shared with us on Twitter. There's a phenomenon ultra rare known as ball lightning.
Thousands in the region woke up in the middle of the night to find ominous scenes.
Fires are burning out of control all over California.
I mean, it's just amazing what we're seeing happening. But
More than 100 major fires have now burned across 11 western states in what is rapidly becoming the worst fire season in American history.
Los Angeles has reported its highest ever temperature, an astonishing 49.4 degrees Celsius. That's 121 degrees Fahrenheit. I did not know thermometers could count that high.
From space, the entire West Coast smothered in smoke.
Oh my God.
During the first week of September, more than 8,000 fires were reported in this part of the Amazon. That's twice the number of fires registered during the same period last year. More worrying still, a quarter of the major blazes have spread to the virgin rainforest.
It's one of the world's largest coral systems, made up of nearly 3,000 separate reefs and 900 islands. The Great Barrier Reef attracts huge numbers of tourists every year, but this underwater treasure is at risk of disappearing. They were severely bleached in all 3 regions of the system and says it's more widespread than ever before.
Welcome back. Well, an asteroid the size of an SUV flew closer to the Earth than any other space rock ever recorded. This all happened Sunday morning, and NASA didn't see the asteroid until it was gone. Researchers say the rock came from the direction of the sun.
This is 2020. It's the year of unpredictability.
Anything could happen.
Who knows what might happen?
Yeah, this is not a joke, by the way. This space rock is expected to come closest to our planet just hours before Americans choose whether to vote for Joe Biden or Donald Trump. But it's pretty safe to say that 2020 has been one of the most exhausting years that anybody can remember. There's been a brutal pandemic. There is a brutal pandemic. There are global protests. There's a nail-biting American election. Surely nothing more can happen.
Well, that's what we thought until we saw this, that an asteroid is heading to Earth and could collide with us on November the 2nd. That's the day before the presidential election.
Key time right now, 6:55. A growing dent in Earth's magnetic field could impact satellites and spacecraft.
And the spot is called the South Atlantic Anomaly. It's being monitored by NASA and interfering with data collection. So scientists are also monitoring how the South Atlantic Anomaly could affect our own atmosphere.
This massive storage bin was no match for last week's derecho.
This came crashing down. I've never seen anything like it.
Hurricane-force winds plowed through Dennis Campbell's Iowa farm and much of the Midwest last week, leaving behind hurricane-like aftermath.
Leaving a path of destruction stretching more than 700 miles from eastern Nebraska to western Ohio.
The derecho, which means straight in Spanish, sped across 770 miles straight through the Corn Belt. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, not as far as the widespread nature of this wind event.
And the effect on Iowa's crops is catastrophic. The derecho wiping out an estimated 10 million acres, up to 43% of the state's corn and soybean crops.
Well, if you go when the snowflakes storm, when the rivers freeze and summer ends, please see she has a coat so warm to keep her from the howling winds. Please see for me if her hair hangs long, if it rolls and flows all down.
The volcano at Mount Sinabung in Indonesia is erupting again for the third time in less than 2 weeks. You can see a column of ash rising a kilometre into the sky in this footage, which we sped up a little. Officials are warning people to stay away.
Some alarming news today for millions who live along the Great Lakes. The Army Corps of Engineers says 3 of the 5 lakes, Michigan, Huron, and Superior, broke January records for water levels. And as Dean Reynolds reports, all that water is now forcing many with waterfront property into a battle to save their home.
Built by her grandfather, most of her lakefront cottage fell off a cliff on New Year's Eve.
I really don't know how I'm going to get out of this.
With those 10 to 14 foot waves out here.
Across the Great Lakes, the inundation has been accompanied by more frequent and intense storms that have stripped away the sandy base of beachfront homes.
Please see for me her hair hanging.
Though the coronavirus pandemic was relatively slow to hit many developing countries, the World Food Program warns the outbreak could cause widespread famines of biblical proportions.
The UN says the locusts present an unprecedented threat to food security and livelihoods.
I'm a-wondering if she remembers me at all.
But now the World Food Program analysis shows also, due to the coronavirus, that an additional 130 million people could be pushed to the brink of starvation by the end of 2020.
The locusts, billions of them, have devoured hundreds of hectares of crops across the region.
Well, the second wave is mainly locusts, which have bred now, which are breeding now in Ethiopia and Kenya, which are not their usual breeding grounds. And this is because, especially over the past few months, there have been heavy rains here outside the normal rainy season, and that has basically created the perfect breeding ground for the locusts.
The insects are breeding so fast, their numbers could multiply by 500 in just a few months.
So if you're traveling.
While swarms of locusts have been spreading in the Middle East and India in the past couple of weeks, destroying crops, a different breed has appeared in southern regions of China.
Desert locusts swarming the Turkana County have been on a rampage in what experts are calling the worst invasion the country has seen.
This is the first super cyclone forming over the Bay of Bengal in more than 20 years.
And destroying homes by the hundreds. Pounding India's eastern coastline, the strongest cyclone in
pinche granizada.
It's a town under siege, overrun by bats that outnumber the population by hundreds of thousands, infiltrating every corner of the town and putting lives at risk. And in the centre of the normally quiet town, there's a cacophony of screeches.
The problem that we're having is that we're seemingly being influxed by more and more animals, and the roost cannot handle it.
The botanical gardens are overrun with bats. Every inch of every branch is covered with them. Mayor Raymond J.O. says they've now reached biblical plague proportions. Some of the trees are so full of bats, they're constantly breaking from the sheer weight of them, are covered in bat feces. But at night, it's far worse.
This is what locals here have to put up with every day. There's hundreds of thousands of bats flying around. The noise is horrendous and the smell is putrid and lingers long after the bats have flown away for the evening. This can last up to an hour and is repeated every morning when they return.
Reports were coming in 2 or 3 months ago when this first started. So something's happening and action is clearly needed.
Authorities in Botswana are investigating mysterious deaths of elephants after a spike in recent weeks.
Aerial photos reveal elephants collapsed on their sides or face down in the Okavango Delta. Botswana's government says they started dying mysteriously in March. They've counted 275 carcasses so far. The National Park Rescue says the actual number of dead elephants could be more than 400.
Authorities have ruled out poaching as a potential cause of death.
Dying, very suddenly in some of the cases. The carcasses were animals that had fallen down while walking.
But the light of fireflies could soon be going out as that insect faces extinction. Scientists say the loss of natural habitat, pesticides, and artificial lighting all play a role. Many fireflies rely on chemical reactions in their bodies to draw them to light and allow them to find mates. Light pollution messes with that cycle.
It's just a marine mystery. Thousands of dead fish are found in the bay.
This is happening off the coast of Miami.
In the search for what's causing a smelly situation in Biscayne Bay, thousands of dead fish washing up for miles. The problem is so bad, there's a warning tonight to stay out of the water.
So why are all of the fish dying, and how much longer will this go on?
As thousands of dead fish appeared floating throughout the water for miles, and many still remain.
It's crazy. It's like, I've never seen anything like this before.
It was an unusual sight Tuesday morning along the shoreline of the Margaret Pace Park.
Looks like a cemetery for fish.
Hundreds of dead fish are floating in Biscayne Bay, and people in the area are not enjoying the sight.
But she was not expecting to see this.
And all of a sudden we were looking around us and we realized that we were in a sea of dead fish. Of all different types of fish and all different sizes. We just started literally picking up fish and pushing fish away from us, and we're like, oh my goodness, that something is wrong. So we cut our swim short.
Hundreds of dead fish of every shape, size, and species. And the fish and the seagrass are literally suffocating to death.
But it's 2020, so I guess nothing surprises me anymore.
So if you're traveling in the North Country Fair, where the winds hit heavy on the borderline, remember me to one who lives there, for she once was a true love of mine.